Here's a piece from the Washington Examiner by Emily Larson. Biden, you ain't black quip gives Trump campaign new opportunity to try for black support. Joe Biden's comment that the black people having trouble deciding whether to vote for him or President Trump ain't black, and the Trump campaign's loud response underscores a major strategy for the Trump campaign that could make a difference in the 2020 election, targeting black voters. Will "you ain't black" be forgotten by the news cycle in a few days? Of course it will be. Should Dems be concerned about the Trump camp's potential to weaponize it in targeted digital ads this fall? Absolutely, said Cook Political Report editor Dave Wasserman. An average of 90% of black voters have voted for the Democratic presidential candidate for decades, but the Trump campaign hopes to capture a larger percentage of the 8% of black voters he won in 2016. While Trump's team does not aim to win the black vote, gaining in that group could help give Trump an edge in competitive swing states, and it is especially important if black voter participation in the general election does not rise. 59% of black voters participated in the 2016 election, down from 66% in 2012 and 65% in 2008. And if you remember, Barack Obama won both of those. Biden winning 91% to 7% with 60% turnout versus 88% to 10% with 55% turnout could be the difference in these key states. It was the margin in 2016, Wasserman said. Biden's widely heard quip on Friday is a line the Trump campaign can use to serve that goal. On the Breakfast Club morning radio show Friday, the former vice president and Democratic presidential nominee faced tough questions on issues that black Americans face. At the end of the program, Biden said, "If you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black." The comment was met with an onslaught of social media and cable news outrage through the morning, along with defenses of Biden. "I already told you the black vote ain't free," tweeted rapper Sean Combs, also known as P. Diddy. Earlier this evening, I was listening to Tim Black's call-in show, and that seemed to be a consensus among the people calling into his show. If there's a rising chorus of black voices saying the black vote ain't free, then Joe Biden is going to have a problem. Although we should never forget that Joe Biden isn't in there to beat Trump anyway, he's just in there to block Bernie. But the voters who voted for him in the primaries didn't know that. They voted for him because they wanted him to defeat Donald Trump. And if it wasn't clear before, it should be now that he doesn't give a fuck about black or brown voters, or about women, or about college students, or about LGBTQ voters, or trans voters, or any other voters. He doesn't give a fuck about the working people. He doesn't want us to have Medicare for all. He doesn't want us to have decent wages. He doesn't give a fuck about you. He doesn't care about you at all, at all, at all. I'm not saying we should vote for Donald Trump, but staying home becomes a more and more obvious solution to this kind of disrespect. I hope he'll start to figure out that disrespecting some of us means disrespecting all of us. That's what solidarity means. He's disrespectful of the Me Too movement. He's disrespectful of women in general, not to mention Tara Reade. And when he disrespects Tara Reade, he disrespects all of us. That's what solidarity is. We need to stick together. His lack of respect is inexcusable. The Trump campaign can fuck itself, but you know it's going to get some mileage out of this. The loudest condemners came from the Trump campaign, the Republican National Committee, and his allies. In a press call with reporters about Biden's comments on Friday, Trump campaign advisor Katrina Pearson and South Carolina Senator Tim Scott, the only black Republican in the Senate, called Biden's comments racially demeaning and race-baiting. According to the RNC, Pearson, Scott, and other surrogates gave almost 36 media interviews within an hour of the comments being made, and there are more to come over the next several days. The GOP groups tout the Black Voices for Trump campaign aimed at engaging with black voters on the ground to combat the myth that black Americans are only Democrats. By late afternoon, Biden apologized for making the remark. "I shouldn't have been such a wise guy," he said. "I know that the comments have come off like I was taking the African American vote for granted, but nothing could be further from the truth." Dude, you're taking all of us for granted. The move likely aimed to end the news cycle about his comments before the long Memorial Day weekend. It also showed much swifter action than last summer, when it took him days to apologize for praising segregationist senators in the 70s after California Senator Kamala Harris attacked him in a debate for opposing integration busing. The apology, though, did not stop the Trump campaign from starting to publicize T-shirts with Biden's comment, and in the press call, Pearson didn't directly address a question about racially clumsy comments from the president. The president's comments, more times than not, are usually pulled out of context, Pearson said, adding that Biden is hurting the black community while Trump is helping the black community. Oh, yeah, sure. Scott mentioned Trump-backed bipartisan initiatives like economic opportunity zones intended to help poor minority communities, criminal justice reform, and anti-lynching legislation signed into law. What is important for the Trump campaign and Republicans, though, is not to win a cultural argument or a majority of black voters, but to win enough to make a difference. Joe Biden has a history of bigoted and racist remarks that he can no longer hide from in his basement quarantine. With the powerhouse political machine the RNC has built, we will be sure that every black American knows the choice they face in November. A candidate with a failed record who has continuously taken our community for granted, or continued prosperity and opportunity under President Trump, said Paris Dennard, RNC Senior Communication Advisor for Black Media Affairs. 1.3 million black Americans voted for President Trump in 2016, and more are coming in November. I think this is all very sad that black voters think that either candidate is going to do them any good. But if the percentage went 50-50, I don't see why that would be inappropriate, because Trump and Biden are about equally bad for black people. The main difference is that Trump is more overtly racist than Biden, but I don't think he's more racist than Biden. One group unlikely to budge away from voting for Biden are older black voters, a key segment that helped Biden win a blowout victory in the South Carolina primary, sealing his path to the nomination despite losing badly in the Iowa and New Hampshire nominating contests. All those black moms and grandmas who listen to Jim Clyburn and their church pastors. As I've said before, I'm not blaming them for being afraid of Donald Trump, but I think if they were better informed, they would also be afraid of Joe Biden. But Trump could make inroads with younger black voters. Black voters under age 30 preferred Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders in South Carolina over Biden, showing the age group has less Biden loyalty. And Biden has less support among black voters now than Hillary Clinton did at this point in 2016, according to Quinnipiac polls. That's interesting. A poll released this week found Biden with 81% support among black voters, while Trump had 3% and 13% were undecided. A late May poll found Clinton with 93% support, while Trump had 4% and 2% undecided. The Biden campaign's hire of a senior advisor to focus on women and African American voters this week signaled that it is aware how important it is to keep black voters engaged and prevent Trump from making gains. If black voters get pissed and defect in a major way, this is going to go badly for everybody who thinks Biden can defeat Donald Trump. From a friend. It took the Trump campaign less than 8 hours to capitalize on the latest Dementia Joe screw-up. Biden is his own worst enemy, and he cannot be the nominee. There are other, better choices. No one should settle for this malarkey. Look, Biden does have major issues when it comes to race, and I do think this statement shows how Joe both looks down upon African Americans as well as takes them for granted. But to me, what he did this morning was less about race and more about entitlement. If you watch the interview, you see how angry he gets that he has to answer more questions at a future date. How dare this ungrateful black man make Biden earn his vote? Biden is entitled to Charlemagne's vote as well as the entire black community's vote. That's how Biden feels anyway. What Biden did was essentially say the quiet part out loud, which is that the Dems will never try to do anything to earn the black vote, the Hispanic vote, the Muslim vote, the LGBTQ vote, the white working class vote, the progressive vote, or anyone's vote. They will never try and help any of those groups of people. Democrats feel we all have no choice but to vote for them. They govern by fear, just like the Republicans. Republicans target a certain demographic and say, Mexicans are going to rape your women. Immigrants are going to take your jobs. Muslims are going to take your Christianity. Gays and liberals are going to make your kids gay. Trans are going to rape your daughters in public bathrooms, and Democrats are going to take your money, your rights, and your guns. Vote for us and we'll protect you. Then Dems go, Vote for us because we aren't the Republicans. Dems offer nothing except the fact that they aren't Republicans. They feel they just need to be 1/1024th or 1 Elizabeth Warren Cherokee Indian DNA test better than the Republicans, and that's it. It's like if Republicans kidnapped you, raped you, and then dumped you off in the middle of nowhere. The Dems would kidnap you, rape you, but then drop you off 2 blocks from your house and say, you have to choose us. You have no choice. Republicans will dump you off in the middle of nowhere. Meanwhile, people like me are like, how about you just don't kidnap or rape us and instead maybe give us universal health care, free public college tuition, and save the planet? 3 things that every other major country already does for its citizens. Well, maybe other than save the planet. People like me have higher standards and aren't willing to settle. As long as you settle, Dems will never do anything to earn your vote or better this country. They are all about their money, their power, and of course, the money and power of their corporate overlords. If you watch the interview, you see Biden pretend to be so outraged over the new information that says if Trump had started the shutdown, stay-at-home order 1 week earlier, then 36,000 lives would have been saved. He hammers home that 36,000 are needlessly dead. Well, information came out a long time ago saying that 3,600 Americans needlessly die every month simply because they have no health care. Medicare for All would save 3,600 lives a month or 43,200 lives a year. Biden is against Medicare for All. So under him, over 43,000 Americans would be dead every year. But he's not a Republican. He's not Trump, so you have to vote for him. Screw that! Raise your standards, demand better, and don't compromise your values or your beliefs. I will leave you with this. As we all know, during the Civil Rights era, the Freedom Riders protested by sitting in the whites-only section of restaurants and diners. These brave young people of color could have just sat at the blacks-only section and peacefully enjoyed their meals with the other Negroes and other coloreds. That would have been a compromise where they chose the lesser of 2 evils. But instead, they risked their lives in order to fight for something greater than themselves. They demanded more. They demanded equality. They demanded dignity. They demanded respect. They demanded what was right. And because they did, our government was forced to enact change. Because they did, segregation and separate but equal are no longer things. Some of us are inspired by acts of heroic activism like this. We want to make it so that student loan debt is no longer a thing. Rationing insulin is no longer a thing. Dying from lack of health care is no longer a thing. Hungry children are no longer a thing. Slave wages are no longer a thing. Corporations bribing our politicians is no longer a thing. And the planet dying in exchange for massive fossil fuel profits is no longer a thing. The lesser of 2 evils is still an evil. The Republican Party will never do what's right, and the Democratic Party will never do more than they have to in order to be just 1,999,999th better than the Republicans. So we need to force the Dems to be better with the 2 most powerful weapons we have, our voices and our votes. Make our voices heard and hold your vote hostage until someone earns it. Don't let the Dems take you for granted. They've been doing that for far too long already. Thank you, my friend Nick Antonuccio. You said my mind exactly and eloquently.